Dr. Jazz.
How are you, Ken? All good?
Dr. Jazz.
All good. I had a little bit of a laryngitis, so I have a little bit of a small hack,
Ah, okay.
a mild flu. It's like a flu score. But
Yeah,
other than that, I'm doing good. Yeah.
good. Thanks for taking the time, man. Appreciate it.
How about yourself?
I'm good, you know.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's we have a 1-year-old daughter at home, so I think I'm constantly sick for the last 2 months. Like she started kindergarten beginning of January, and I'm just like coughing all the time and like snot and like.
Oh
But yeah,
man.
that's part of the game, I guess. So
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, the spreading of the germs
exactly, yeah. Spreading the
makes
German.
everybody
Yeah,
stronger. Yeah.
yeah.
So where you living at now?
I'm in Slovenia, in
Oh,
Europe.
you are in Slovenia. Cool.
Yeah. You ever played here, by the way?
In Ljubljana, I played in Ljubljana a
Ljubljana,
couple
right?
of
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And I've eaten in a restaurant outside of Trieste many times.
Ah, really? Oh,
A
well.
place called a place called Tenderosa.
Oh, yeah. I
Have
think I
you
know
ever
where
heard
it
about
is. Yeah. I think
um
we're. Yeah.
it's off the hook.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was on tour with the acoustic trio with Marco Capelli and Satoshi. The first time we were traveling from Venezia out to I'm trying to remember I think we were going to Zagreb and we were very
Zagreb.
hungry and we Marco pulls off the road, we get lost, and the beauty about getting lost is we found this restaurant because he wanted to find a place to eat. Oh my God! You can look right down the Adriatic Sea to you
Yeah, yeah,
see Trieste, and
yeah.
it's So every time I go past there now, if we're on tour with that group, we go Tenderosa, Tenderosa.
Yeah, Italy, man. Like anywhere you go, it's the food. I mean,
Exactly.
I haven't eaten bad in Italy yet, really. I mean, even the crappiest looking place,
No, you
like
can't.
plastic looking, that's the best usually. Like it's incredible, really. It's incredible. But yeah.
Exactly.
But Ken, I
Cool.
want to start this talk with asking you. I'm such a fan of the Dreams from a Clown Car album that came out a couple of years ago, and I wanted to ask you,
Uh-huh.
what's happening on the department of band leading for you? Like, is something new gonna come out recently, or like, what have you been composing, or what's happening there?
That's like
Yeah,
a question.
immediately, right?
Yeah, no, but I like that because um I've been writing some stuff right now. I'm working on it. I'm finishing up a solo thing that I recorded about a year and a half ago.
Beautiful.
So I have one more mixing session, kind of editing, going through all the stuff, and then I'll put it together and then send it around, see where it can get a home. So there's that. Then in about 8 years, 7, 8 years ago, I recorded a quartet recording that
Hmm.
has to find a home. I kind of lost track of it. It's called Badolino's Dilemma. I don't know if you know that book, Badolino.
No, no.
It's an Italian author. I'm drawing a blank on his name. One second. Uh, Umberto Eco.
Oh yeah, shit. Echo. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So anyway, so the quartet, the idea I had the quartet was with Michael T. A. Thompson on percussion, right? Vinnie Goli on all his horns, right? Warren Smith
Ooh. Ooh.
a vibraphone and a timpani, and then T.A. and Warren kind of going back and forth, and myself with all the effects. So we basically did a day in the studio, and it's all mixed. So
Wow.
now, after I finish the solo thing, once I get that done, then I'm going to start to get on that one.
Super. Okay.
Then I'm going to start bringing back some more music for that kind of format with clown car. I may be adding a pianist or a guitarist on that stuff as well. I'm
Wow,
not sure
beautiful.
yet. It's turning in my head. But
Yeah.
it's for me. I enjoy so much, playing other people's music and other people's projects, and really kind of almost feeling like, oh yeah, there they go, there they go, there they,
Yeah, yeah.
up there, that I wind up not having enough time to clear my head is like a clown car. It's full of everybody else's music that I'm a part of. So I have to find that space, and I've been working on that now. So you asked a good question, a very good
Beautiful.
question.
No, I love your
Yeah.
stuff. That's such beautiful records, and so it's like, yeah, looking forward to any group effort that you're gonna put out. So
Oh,
beautiful,
thank you, man. Thank you.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, TA and I talk a lot about that, because he's always kind of intrigued by um, when that group was functioning. He was always intrigued. He said, you'd write this music, but then you everybody would do their thing, and you wouldn't say, well, that's wrong or that's right. I go, no, I just write the music. By the time I get finished writing it, that's the portal. Let the cats go, where they want to go with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I feel if it's getting too far afield, which usually it isn't, I can kind of like a bass player, I can come back around and do something, wrangle the cats.
Yeah.
I've always I think I learned that from watching Mingus many years ago.
Ooh,
Had the opportunity to watch him live with with that quartet with
ooh,
Danny
man.
Richmond
Dan Richmond, yeah.
and George Adams
George Adams, yeah,
and
sure. Yeah.
oh man, and watching, feeling. I won't even say watching. I was living in Syracuse at the time, and they would come up to play in Syracuse, and I'd be up there, and I would feel. I couldn't even. I wouldn't even watch. I could feel Mingus kind of going around and pushing them and pulling them. And it's like, wow, that's some deep shit. And I was playing trumpet at the time, and that's
Really?
why I wanted to.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
man. I didn't know that.
and I said, oh yeah, and I said that's the shit right there. Pardon the expression. That's it. uh, that's where the power is. It's not up. It's not in the top, in the upper register. Not in the horn stuff. It's in the background, piano and bass and drums. That's really what changes the feel of the
Yeah.
music. So I started thinking about that. Still,
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can put the same tune to a different rhythm section. It's going to be completely different. I find that
completely.
amazing, man. That always when I play some tunes with the same people, I mean, with different people, and it's like how they approach it, the bass players, let's say, or drummers. It's like, wow, man, really? I love that.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, so
so cool.
now here's a question for you. What in a conversation form, because if you experience that with the rhythm section with, like, say, three different rhythm sections
Yeah,
and three or four and four different feelings, right? How do you navigate that? Because
uh,
you have a certain thing that goes on
yeah,
in your head. So
yeah.
how do you navigate that?
I leave it also. I mean, I would never tell a drummer if I play with, I don't know, Tom Rainey or Gerald Cleaver or whoever, like these John Holland, like these guys, that they're the masters of their craft. I mean, like, what should
Yeah,
I tell Tom Rainey? It's like, here's the lead sheet. Whatever they do, it's like, it's 190%. So usually I just close my eyes, like I'm like, man, okay, I have to join in now, like, or something. I don't know. It's like, no, but yeah,
it's cool,
it's
cool.
yeah,
But it's like, I think there are some people. I mean, musical training is so funny that there some people would have a perception, and I'm not saying one is better or worse. I'm just
yeah,
talking about varietals. It's like some people, if they don't hear exactly what they're going to get, then it's like, oh, I can't do that.
yeah.
Well, like with Tom, I heard Tom play just a week and a half ago up at Berkeley. They were doing something with Jay Clayton. I
Mm,
wrote to Tom and said, "Man, you play like an angel." Basically, he was doing his stuff, but it was all inside of this other thing. So
yeah,
that's all you can say. What do you say to Tom Rainey? You play like an angel,
yeah.
right?
Oh my God, he would give you that look like, what, man? The cynical,
Exactly.
dark look, like, I don't know. No, but it's like the music we play, I think, which is kind of this border of improvisation and composition, and we always go into open sections, at least in
Uh-huh.
my music. I mean, these players always seem to make the right choices for whatever they are. So yeah, I don't know. I'm quite loose as a
Cool.
band leader. I'm like, go for it. You know, maybe when I'll get older, I'll be more like, no.
Yeah, and that's what I think. That's what makes No, I hope not. I
No,
hope
no,
not.
no, I'm kidding.
Because I think that's what makes this. Yeah, I know. That's what makes this music so great, though.
Yeah,
Is this music that when we're on the cusp to allow that which no one could ever compose. I mean, you can't compose half of that stuff that comes out improvisationally because it's an energy flow.
yeah,
It's an energy flow.
exactly.
And it's what's yeah, and if you my thinking about this, because during the pandemic I was thinking a lot about composing and why do I do what I do or we do, and it's like you could never compose. You give someone four notes or
Yeah,
even something that says play a circle, a squiggle, and come back to the dot. You put five people and the improvisers, five things, 50 ways.
yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
that's the
Yeah,
beauty. That's the beauty of what we do. So when your groups, my groups, everybody, all these cats you've been interviewing, this is the power is in that plasma energy.
yeah. I mean, I ask everyone
And
this question, like you ask me now, like this band leading and how do they do it? And more or less everyone says the same, like
yeah,
it's quite, unless someone would have a really strict idea, okay, here I want, I mean, I would tell people like it's a ballad, that's it.
right,
And yeah, I think
exactly.
then, yeah, up tempo. I don't know, whatever.
Well, then
But
of course you get into a thing where let's say, like if you're doing standards, right? You give someone a ballad, and then like if you're playing a ballad, and it's like 20. If you can have like maybe 70% will go into when they're soloing, will go into a double time kind of feel, right? So that sometimes you might want to go, maybe don't go to a double time feel all
yeah,
the time. Maybe give me some miles, you
yeah,
know. But
yeah,
that's again a matter of taste. That's all, and then you just communicate it.
yeah. But I think the right people are, I remember I did a workshop like 2 years ago, and there were some people who finished university here, and Lionel Lueke, the guitarist, was leading it, and I was like the guitar mentor, and so he invited four people to the stage, and they said like, so play something, and they chose "There Will Never Be Another You" ballad. Okay, immediately the first thing the drummer takes are brushes, and he's like, why? It's a ballad, you know. Yeah. So I mean,
Exactly.
that's not immediately the first
Obviously,
choice.
exactly. Well, obviously they had the drummer hadn't talked to Billy Mintz, who could do a beautiful ballad with sticks or with mallets or
Yeah, or
and not
Motion
not
was like
necessarily
that, right?
brushes.
Or whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these cats. Yeah. But speaking of composition, I wanted to ask you, how do you compose? Like you mentioned compositions before. Like, what's your process there? Like, let's say for the Quantum Band, for instance,
For the quantum,
or for whichever. I mean,
well, I'm actually going through I'm going through a transition period compositionally because I kind of felt like I got stalled. So on January 1st, 2024, I went back to my counterpoint notes from 1980 when I was studying counterpoint in Boston, and I'm doing two part counterpoint again just to get my muscles written and opening my ears in a different way.
yeah,
But for the clown corn, for anything else that I write, sometimes I'll just like kind of jot down some ideas, and then I'll just start to like see what I can do with them. And sometimes I'll have like 3 or 4 pages of variations on something, and then I'll start to cobble it together by what I throw away and what it feels like.
mm,
And if I can dance to it, if I can move to it and say, there, okay, then we've got it. I've got it.
mm, yeah,
So I think I don't have a particular process. I think there are some guys that have better processes than I do. I'm still trying to figure out. I always feel like a beginner trying to figure out like what modality do I want to write it in a mode, or do I want to write how do I, what intervals. Recently I've been really focusing on just intervallic combinations,
yeah,
but not necessarily not systematized like in like a 12 tone or even modal, just like okay, from this group of intervals, how can I expand it, how can I contract it. So I'm actually right now studying the string quartets of Haydn.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, man.
And yeah, and I have to kick my butt. I said, years ago when I was here listening to him in school, and it's like, I go, yeah, that cat was a friggin' genius, man. Because I'm seeing how what makes his stuff go forward is within an 8 bar phrase, it's never 8 bar. It's never, you see, it's maybe 5 and 3,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or 5 and 2, and that third, which becomes the eighth, is actually part of the other one that comes out. So there's all this unevenness that actually moves it forward. And I go, oh, that's what I've always been wrestling with on an emotional basis. Whenever I hear written music or whenever I hear stuff that's systematized, including coming from myself, I go, so here's this old guy. That's why they called him Papa Haydn, because all this stuff is amazing. And I see how it affected. Like I don't mean to be Eurocentric, but because I'm so focusing on this, how Mozart and Beethoven
Sure.
were, you know, so that's kind of my process right now, is besides the counterpoint and working the piano with harmonizing stuff, in a different way, thinking about how they're putting form together to make a form that feels like it's moving and alive and not just dead. Because that's, for me, sometimes if I'm listening to music, if a form is so clear that it becomes, okay, here's the form and here's the improvising. For me, that kind of like, for my personal taste, it's like, okay, I want something that's just going to start to
Yeah.
gonna like contort, but in a way that's unified, and it's like, So are they improvising? Is it written? Is it written? Is it improvising? What are they doing?
Yeah.
How are they listening? Yeah, all those questions.
Yeah. Interesting.
know.
Yeah. I'm
So
asking
that's
the
kind
same
of like,
questions.
that's right. You're right smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you asking the same question too,
Yeah. I
right?
mean, it's like.
But it's not like what.
Sorry. Go ahead, Ken.
No, I'm going to hear you, but then I'll hop onto this other thing. But you go ahead.
No. I wanted to say, I'm
What are you
also,
feeling?
after writing so many tunes, like, how to come up with new ideas and where to get them. Like, I mean, I'll try Haydn now. Like, just, I feel like I'm repeating myself sometimes if I'm writing, like how to get out of this loophole or some, I don't know. That's why I'm always asking you guys, how do you do it? Because I
Yeah.
want to do it better even so.
Well, one of the things that I remember years ago, a composition teacher that I was hanging with, he would say, man, he said, don't think don't think chords, think
Yeah.
line.
Lines, yeah.
And I didn't, I heard it, I understood the words, but I didn't understand it. But now I'm going back, thinking about counterpoint and thinking about how that, pardon me, generates. It's like, wow, they're not thinking harmonically. They're thinking, almost like the linear
Mm-hmm.
harmony. Almost like,
Mm-hmm.
where is this going? And I think that can take us, I'm putting my money that it's going to take me out of my own box.
That's a good one, yeah. I'll
Because
try it.
then it's all of a sudden, I'm not in the system. I'm not thinking about how this chord is going to go to this chord because of the system. But I want this into this shape, and what does that shape imply?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I'll try these things a little. Yeah. I
And
guess.
actually, I think too, if you get if you get some good shapes, almost like you can tell a cat, he'd play the shape, don't play the notes, and then it's going to play itself.
Mm,
To some degree.
yeah, yeah,
And I
definitely.
think Carl Berger, when he was alive, what I loved about how Carl did his conducting the creative orchestra conduction, he would not only stay out of the way most of the time and let the people navigate with their ears, but it's also when he would conduct, he was conducting his shape, which, your body, because yeah,
Yeah,
and then if your body moves, the music has to move. It has to,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So many ways. I
so that's
mean,
kind of what I'm thinking about.
yeah, well, that's good. Yeah,
There are so
good
many ways. And
lines.
also like
Yeah.
Sana. I play with this violinist, Sana Nagano,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
do you know Sana?
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things so she all this all this rhythmic stuff, and she has this very complicated, complex rhythm, which I kind of dug, but I kind of have been using that to write myself my own etudes, right? Not to play that rhythm, but to imagine it and how I'm going to feel that. So I throw that stuff out and how I'm going to feel that within playing somebody else's music or my own music or writing it.
Yeah.
Because if you're feeling, let's say, if you're feeling a beat, a pulse that's in 6, right, and then you're playing something that's in a 7 or 13 kind of count, and then you wait till it kind of it moves at its own pace until it comes together. So you're in motion, and then you come together. You start to develop your sensory ability to feel that conflict is the wrong word, but not conflict. When things aren't let's see, when things are quote dissonant, right? Taking the emotional concept of dissonant out of right or wrong. But if they're dissonant, they're vibrating like this. And then when they become consonant, they become like together. And then they move apart, and then they come together, and move apart, and then come together. So to develop that sense, I create these little exercises for myself to create that sense, so I can feel how I'm moving inside of that. As an improviser, and if someone gives me that kind of music to, like when playing with Sana, I would work on that all the time like that,
Yeah. Yeah, it's heavy music. Yeah.
And it's great for improvising. Maybe it's, you say this, you guys start off, and I say, I'll see you over there, and then all this stuff happens, and then there it is, and then that becomes so meaningful, that's kind of plasma activity. Plasma energy, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's
like actually.
Beautiful.
If I'm looking at you right now, there's that on the screen. There's this like kind of incandescent light beam that's looking like a plasma that's going through one head and through the other. I love it.
Yeah, I have this.
It's like Charles Gale.
Yeah.
I like it.
Now it's my studio here. I have like drums and
I like it.
Equipment, and my room with instruments and whiskeys. So that's it. Where I escape, but can you mention like Haydn, and you mentioned Mingus. Now I wanted to ask you, like, if we go back a little, I guess late 60s, I don't know, early 70s, or how did you encounter jazz? When did you find out about jazz, and like when did you say, like, shit, I want to play this music? Like, was there a moment that you heard a record or a concert or?
That's a good question, because my family wasn't necessarily musically oriented, right? I mean, my grandmother played some piano. One of my uncles, liked piano and guitar. He was a Italian American. He was a construction worker, electrician. My father was an electrician, then became a teacher. So, I mean, even on their deathbeds. I mean, I went to see all my uncles when they died, before they died, and even in the hospital, they say, "Well, when are you going to make a living and stop living off your parents?" And I go, "What? I've been off. I haven't taken money from my parents since I was 17 years old, man. Come on, So you'd say it was an anathema to them to do what we do, and I don't think about it too much, because if I think about it, I think I'll be freaking out. So I'm going to just keep looking forward as far as how financially. However, I don't remember thinking about jazz. I remember just liking music. And what I liked, the music that I liked as a kid, even though I wanted to be a scientist, believe it or not. But I always liked science fiction music, so the science fiction movie music.
Yeah.
Kung Fu theater, Kung Fu theater at 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoons. I love that music, right? And I used whenever I would hear what is jazz now, whenever it would be on the radio, I would catch it like sometimes late at night. I would be pulled to that. But as far as like for pop music, I wasn't interested in pop music at all. It was like almost like I knew what they were going to do. I was looking for something that kind of created a question mark for me. If I didn't hear a question mark, if I didn't feel a question mark, I wasn't interested. It's like I'd say, okay, there we go. So as a piano, my grandmother was teaching me some piano, and instead of playing the scales, I would play the scales, and I would put them a half step apart, like like C and D flat, and I would do the scale. She'd slap my hand and say, "No, don't do that." I said, "Grandma, I like how that feels." No. So anyway, so I was, through high school, I was going to be, an oceanographer. That's what I wanted to be. right? I love the water. I love, being on the, and sophomore year, I heard Ornette, right? A
Okay.
record that was sent to me by my brother's saxophone teacher. I had been sick, and the saxophone teacher sent me jazz abstractions, a Gunther
Hmm.
Schiller thing with Ornette on it, right? I listened to that, man. I went, oh man, I'm in, count me in. That was, so I was like 16, 15 years old. I was in, that was it. I was playing trumpet at the time, but I got myself a teacher. I said, that's it, I'm dedicated. That's the point, boom. And
Wow.
I didn't want to play that music. I wanted to play all music. I wanted to, and, I wanted to play everything. I wanted to hear everything, play everything. That was it. But it
Mm.
was all on trumpet at that time.
When did you
So
start playing bass
yeah,
then?
I started playing bass 2 months before my senior recital in college at the
Wow,
university.
man,
I had
so late.
I had an operation where they had to take my wisdom teeth out,
Yeah.
so I was kind of peeled shut, and they were I was for us. I was going some friends around, they would do. There wasn't a jazz department at that time. You studied classical. There was like a jazz group, and I played trumpet in that. But they were playing a jam session. I was going. It was like probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, and there's no bass player. Oh, I forgot to throw this in. While I played trumpet, I never liked bass players.
Okay.
'Cause I always felt that they they kept me tied up, man. Open up, But then I
Interesting.
would hear like Mingus, and I would hear other bass players through the thing. I would say, play like that, play like that. And even then, when I was going through school, I used to take the train on one Monday at night, whenever with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis band
Yeah.
from Syracuse to hear
Wow.
them play and go back. Because
Wow.
I said to all the guys, I said, man, you got to listen to this rhythm section. They're a rhythm section for the big band, but when the soloists come, they're different. No one came with me. So but I was always saying to bass players, play like that. So I started playing the bass in this jam session, right? And I'm saying, yeah, this is what I'm feeling. Oh man, oh wow, oh. And so I got screwed up in the head. But I said, oh, I didn't know you were playing bass, and I wasn't. And I just felt the connection that I said, oh, I'm hitting a wall on the trumpet, and I know that I'll never get back. But man, oh yeah, can't let me in. But of course, I got myself in my own trouble because I wanted to play the bass like I wanted bass players to play for me. Some people didn't like that, So a lot of years of interesting training.
Yeah, but beautiful, man. Wow,
Yeah,
interesting. Wow, so
yeah.
quite late, right? Yeah,
Yeah, oh,
interesting.
oh yeah, and I have to
Amazing.
say this sometimes, my first teacher who was up in Syracuse, he wouldn't take me for a year. I got a bass. I said, you're too old. I'm not gonna teach you. And
Wow.
he was a guy. He knew Scott LaFaro, and he had been in New York. And actually, wound up happening that he shared a cold water flat with Roswell Rudd and Bar Phillips.
Ooh,
And so so he wouldn't do it for a year, and he finally said when I convinced him to do it, he goes, you're too old. You're going to have psychological problems. Now he was a guy calling he was like a junkie, right? Psychological, we all have psychological problems. But I have to say there were times when I feel like, oh, I'm still a beginner on this thing, and I have to remind myself that I'm not. But I'm glad to feel like a beginner because then
yeah,
I'm
it's
always
good
kind of
always.
like
Yeah,
looking for another answer.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
How,
yeah.
how,
But right from the get, I knew that Okay, go ahead.
no, I wanted to ask you, like, because you're mentioning Syracuse and New York, like, but how did you end up then this connection with Vinny Golia? Because I have you somewhere on so many records that are like mid 80s, I think. Did you go to the
Oh
West
yeah.
Coast then in between, or?
Well, what happened was when I in Syracuse, my first wife, who I met, she was going to school. Who her piano teacher, this guy, Dr. George Papastavro, was. I feel like I learned so much about music from him, going to his 8 o'clock in the morning piano master classes. But there was so much. I would see this guy play the piano. He would stand away from the piano, and he would stand away from the piano, and he'd hit a note, and he goes, I'm gonna make it crescendo. He'd hit a note, and the motherfucker would crescendo, right? It was all about mind, and he would always say, "There's no musical problem. There's no technical problem. There's no musical problem. It's a musical problem and a musical solution. No technical problem and no technical solution." So he was getting away from this idea of fingers first. It was concept first. Yeah. So that said, that she got a job. When she graduated, she was 4 years behind me. 4 years. So I was there 4 years studying bass, and she got a job in New Hampshire teaching in a private school. And so we moved together to New Hampshire. I got a job in a dinner theater in Concord, New Hampshire.
Wow.
But I got myself a small little apartment in Boston, so I would go back and forth and then I finally moved to Boston. We kept a place in New Hampshire where she was teaching. I moved to a place in Boston to study counterpoint with this guy, Dr. David, and to play with some cats there. In 1980, she got accepted on a scholarship to UCLA to study with Joanna Harris. So of course, I followed my wife, to LA, and and that was great. But that's where I got a chance I met Vinny. I got a chance to, play with some great cats, to study with Bert Tversky, study with the principal in the LA Phil, and I was there until 1995, 96. Until I moved back here.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering how this connection with.
Yeah. So when we met Vinny, when I met Vinny, it's like we have an interesting story about it, right? When I met him, right, he's like, "Man, get away." So I was introducing him. He didn't know me, right? But the bass player who was playing with him at the time, right? Do you know Roberto Miranda?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Roberto, man, he said, man, he give me a hug. And it winds up that we're like we're brothers, right? From this, we have this almost like had that same mother, right? But we just didn't know it. And so we would hang together, we get together and talk, and we had a lot of similarities, a lot of also musical approaches. And through then after a while, I'm not sure what happened between Vinny and Roberto. I think Roberto was getting busy. So then Roberto said, "Man, get Ken. And so, and I made sure that it was cool. You're not, Roberto knows, right? He goes, yeah. Okay, cool. So, I never want to take a cat's gig, man.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. How beautiful, man.
So then, and then it wound up, I think because Vinny in California, there's a different kind of I won't say it's better energy, but it's a different kind of energy. It's not so much it's not blunt force. Vinny's from Bronx and New Jersey, right? I'm from Long Island, Brooklyn. So there's a certain bluntness, right? That if he could say something stupid rehearsal, I said, "Oh man, come on, man, get over that bullshit now," that kind of thing. Where other people weren't saying that to him, So I think he felt at home,
Yeah.
And him and my wife, my first wife, got along really great, So that was good. So we became, and after a while, I just was talking to him yesterday, as a matter of fact, on the phone. Because his birthday was the other day.
Yeah.
So we're
still connected.
I have to say, I feel blessed with friendships like that with my friend Steve Adams.
Yeah, Steve also. Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I go ahead.
No, you go ahead. So sorry.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was
just saying, Steve. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Ask.
No. Just go with Steve.
Okay. Well, no, Steve. Well, with Steve, it's like when Rover was auditioning saxophone players, like Steve and Vinny we were rehearsing for our quartet, with Vinny and Steve and myself and Billy Mintz, and it wasn't my quartet; it was a joint quartet, Steve and myself. It was interesting because they were both on the phone with the Rover guys, because they were both auditioning for them, or coordinating that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Now Steve is amazing, man. He's like one of the underrated cats out there, I think. Quite such a great player.
Oh
man,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, Steve and I were just talking. We were on the phone the other night, but she had called to let me know some news. we were talking, and he's just finished a saxophone solo thing. So I haven't listened to it yet. He sent me the files, but we were talking. He goes, I think you're gonna find I'm kind of getting like in too much melody. I said, no, man, you've always been melodic, no matter what. That's what I said. That's why I've asked you all the stupid questions over the years, because the people I play with, I'm also picking their brain, because they usually have something different going on than I have, and I'm trying to pick that. So I'd say we were talking about how his brain was always working. Steve is always working on creating these melodies and these formations that that clear. And I said, yeah, and I'm that energy shit that kind of like wraps around. Then I tie you up in a bun, put you over there, and then another melody, yeah, put it over here, right? And then how can we take those? He goes, yeah, exactly. I said, it must have driven you crazy. He goes, yep, it did. So,
No, that's beautiful. Yeah. No, you had. I mean, I had that the other side of this. I think it's that album, and it's so beautiful. It's. I mean, you've done so much
on
work.
Clean Feed, yeah.
Yeah. It's such a nice record, also.
Actually, there's an interesting thing with Steve is when we first got together and we were starting to work out, we would get together, play and record like at its house. We'd play these long stretches, and then we'd take a break and listen to some of it and then go back. And at one point, I remember we both kind of had come. I had been reading a lot of Japanese haiku. I was into this haiku thing, and usually on the breaks, pardon me, on the breaks, I would be drinking some Jameson's whiskey and a cup of coffee, and he'd be drinking tea. Okay, right. And so at one point, I kind of said, Steve, I think we got to go in a different direction. Steve says, I'm thinking so too. And then he goes, I'm thinking, and we both said like haiku at almost the same time. So then we started doing this idea of how to play, like, okay, take no more than two ideas.
Yep.
And once they're finished, come to an end. And if you end before someone, and then we started stringing them together to allowing for like not necessarily short pieces, but they're like necklaces, right? That these little component. Here's this component, there's this component, there's this component, and this component.
Yeah.
And so that was a kind of an interesting way of creating shape or form in a free zone, without necessarily having to write something, even though we were both writing at the same time for that.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, it's so cool. These different concepts. I love that. Yeah. To come up with creative ideas and yeah. But when you came back to New York in 95, 96, how was that like for you? I mean, I have you on tons of records since 2000 on, but like, was it easy to make it on the scene? Did you already know people here when you moved back to the East Coast, or?
Well, when I moved back here, I was going through a kind of a rough spot in my existence because my wife and I were splitting up, and I had moved from I didn't want to do it long distance, right? So she had gotten a job teaching in Rutgers, and so I said, "Fuck it, we don't do this long distance. That's not how I do. I'm Italian. I got to smell it. I got to taste it. It's visceral. I got to be there." So I just got, I told everybody I had just gotten a really nice gig with the tap dance company that was going to bring me some great musical work. I mean, it was not improvised. It was more kind of a jazz based thing. But the musicians were great. The dancers were really great. I mean, everything was great. But I gave that up. I was working with these orchestras on different contracts. I waited till the contract was finished for the last concert in December, and then I just boom, I left. And of course, that didn't bode well. But what I did was, since my life had changed upside down, I had been pursuing a master's degree in UCSD with Bert Teresky for a minute, and then USC. And each time a tour would come that would take me where I couldn't finish I would have to take a leave of absence. So I said, I have nothing here. I got bupkis. There's a lot of cats that some cats that I know, some cats that I don't. But breaking is going to take a long time in New York if I ever break in. So I'm just going to go to my studies, which I dedicated, like, I wound up auditioning at Rutgers, believe it or not, and got in there. So they gave me a scholarship, kind of it was a special thing where I was I forget what the title of it was, but I was getting a salary to which paid for my thing. So,
Well,
and the woman I was studying bass with at the time, she really helped me change my sound, got me into something that I couldn't do when I was in LA. It was because of the fact that because I had nothing, didn't have to produce a lot. I was able to do for like 4 hours, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, or at night, long tones, just feeling the long tone and feeling that stuff. So it kind of got me into this zone that I'm forever grateful for. So, for that. So that kind of got me. And then around 1999, I auditioned for this. I started playing. This friend of mine, do you know Pablo Aslan?
no,
Yeah, he's a tango bass player.
no, no.
Okay, so he used to play with him and I knew each other in L.A. and him and I became like roommates in Brooklyn, right? Both divorced, right? So in Park Slope, and he had always told me I'm a tanguista. So he said he started teaching me tango, and I wound up getting a gig with this tango klezmer group in Europe that would take me from '99 until about 2010,
Wow.
back and forth to Europe for long stretches of time. I was doing that, plus starting to play in New York. So I don't, did I break in? I don't know. I think I just kind of osmosized in, playing with people, listening to people, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened. And then at one point, and then my first wife and I actually wound up in 2000 starting to get back together, or end of '99. But that was a cosmic thing, because she wound up, when we were starting to get back together, she wound up getting cancer, and pretty much died within like 9 months of the thing. So I was there for her to pass peacefully. It was a beautiful thing, because her family was separate. Some of her sister had passed away, her mother had died, her father was very sick, her brother was in California. So me and my family were able to be there with her. So it was kind of life is so funny. Do we say what's good, what's bad, where does it go? Who the hell knows? But to give thanks for the fact that you're where you're supposed to be. That's like music. Are you where you're supposed to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I remember one time in California, I was on a gig, and I was playing Pentop House with this guy John Gross, right? And Billy Mintz was right. Right. And man, and we finished it, right? And it was, the onus was on me. And, when we finished, John looked at me and goes, huh. And Billy goes, man, you were so right, you were wrong. And I was so wrong, man. I played everything right, but the music was gone. And that was a lesson for me to I was so in my mind that I had forgotten, so there it is. So that's what I was talking about. It's like music, just be joyful for where you are at that moment. Don't be thinking about it. You can think about it later, but not at that moment. So I reflect upon that, because that's a moment where the onus was 3,000% on me, but it was a great lesson.
Yeah, those are the best, right? Yeah, to learn on stage. I love that.
Oh, they are the best.
That's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, I had those moments like with Malaby. I remember we did a tour and we play a first gig, right? My own tunes, and it's a burning gig. Like really, we go into zones, and then the second gig, we start the same tune, and I go in the same zone, right, as yesterday. I really liked it, and I'm playing, and I have my eyes closed, and there's no Tony. I'm like, shit, what? Okay, I keep playing with the drummer, like a duo. Okay, stretching it. I'm like running out of my resources. Like shit. Okay, and he's not joining. And then like, okay, that was it. And then I asked him like, so what was wrong? Like he was like, ah, come on, it's different place, different audience, different vibe. You cannot go in the same zone, even though it was nice yesterday. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Just listen, be open, and like, basically, yeah. Don't think, just, yeah, listen.
There's a thing, there's a meditation exercise that I find really interesting. It says, think without words.
Mm,
Think without words, right? Remember the
okay.
first time I was introduced to that. I'm just like, and actually, I was introduced to it when I was a kid because I was Catholic, born up a Catholic. So I started thinking, well, prayers and words that God said before the word that I was here. So as a Catholic, I said, I have to know words. Oh, there, no words. So when we play with no words. Think about it beforehand. Think about
Mm,
it afterwards. But
yeah,
in that moment, no words. Just
yeah,
that beingness.
yeah. It's
You
heavy.
know.
Yeah, it's heavy. Yeah.
So
The,
now, do you have a way to exercise that for yourself now? Exercise or exorcise? It could
yeah,
be both.
probably exorcise more. No,
But no, have you figured out a way to exercise for yourself about that?
I mean, yeah, just to play with musicians, and listen. I guess listening. I mean, I'm still learning. I guess we all are, but just sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I had a
This
tour
is
like,
this is a good exercise.
yeah. Which one?
No, I
Did
mean to take a string of notes or like take an idea, right? And
yeah.
like okay, I have an idea here, right? There's a rhythm, there's intervals. Okay, take the rhythm out and take everything away, and even take the notes out and just see the shape, right?
Yeah.
That's one way. The other way is take the intervals and then how can you organize it? And again, that's the thinking part, before the thing. But that opens up your sensory ability, one's sensory abilities to hearing it in different ways.
Yeah.
To hearing the same thing in different ways. And
Yeah.
I took a
It's amazing.
poetry workshop when I was in Syracuse. There was a poetry workshop by someone I don't even remember and they were talking about how they would write their poem, and they would write the same poem for a week, and each day they would write it differently with use different words, different rhythms, different, and by the end they would put it all together, and then they would find the one that was really really it. You
Interesting.
know. So I took that and I said, oh, okay. Yeah.
So many approaches, man. Yeah.
So,
It's like,
so if it's something, yeah, like if you have a line, booty right? What? Boo, dee.
yeah.
Meanwhile, in the back of your head, you boobity yabba boo, be, I'll be out.
Mm,
Or you
mm,
whatever.
yeah.
Break that apart, and so then, man, by the time you finish breaking up for a week, man, you'll go to the same tune to every night would be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. I love that. Uh,
And actually, I
that's
was doing.
cool.
I had this. Well, I didn't have it. I was in a group with Alain Joulet, percussionist from France. I think he's relocated now to Canada, and Vinny Golia and Bar Phillips and myself.
Mm,
And man,
ooh,
I would listen to Bar. Oh yeah, exactly. I would listen to Bar every time I get to the room. Bar would like just walk around the room and just like get a sense he would just before he even picked up the bass, and so he would get a sense of the whole thing. So by the time the bass was there, the whole it was like he was doing some kind of shaman incantation. I don't think he would say that he was, but I don't know. But it's like that was it, because each time he played differently because of that. And I
mm,
was and I took my a lesson from him on that shit.
yeah.
You know.
One of the greats. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. You played
Oh
with
yeah.
everyone almost. Like, I wanted to ask you, how did you end up in those bands, like with Anthony Braxton and Bill Dixon? I love that stuff with Bill. Like,
It was by luck is a funny word. First of all, personally speaking, right? I'm how can I say this? I'm my worst enemy for myself, because if I'm very shy, so I'm not gonna call somebody up and say I want to play. No matter how much I want to play, I want to play with you. I'm just too
mm,
shy for that, right? I'll always go to now. Is it truth or is it chicken shit? Pardon the expression, but chicken shit. The chicken. Am I afraid? I just say I'm gonna wait for life to do that. I'm gonna wait for life to do it. So I always wanted to play with Bill Dixon, right?
Mm.
And I was playing with Jackson Crawl at the time, with Dominassi, a trio with Dominassi and Jackson Crawl.
Oh, beautiful.
And Jackson said, "Man, you'd be perfect for for Bill. Man, give him a ring." He gave me his information. I was a little too shy, and because there were a couple of bass players, he had 3 bass players, 2 of whom I knew, and I kind of like didn't want to kind of wedge myself in, that we. I think there was delusional. Anyway, life after years, life brought me into that whole thing, and it wanted to be a great experience, right? Braxton, the same. Well, with Braxton, it's a different thing. I met Braxton in '80. I was playing with Warren Marsh, and he used to, whenever Braxton would come in, he'd find out where Warren was playing, and I would meet him through. I met him through Warren, right? Because he loved Warren's playing, right? And then I met him through Vinny, and so for eternity, he's always said, we gotta do a duet recording, you and me. So somehow or other, that duet thing never happened. But what happened was that he brought me in for the last couple of rounds of stuff. Yeah. So I was glad about that. Oh. But I didn't force. I'm my own worst enemy. So I figure so long as I do the work and fix what mistakes I make, move on forward, continue to do my thing. I should be where I am, and I missed out on playing with I'm trying to blank Cecil Taylor. This piano player I was playing with said, "You got to play with Cecil. He'd love what you do." Because Bora Bergman, do you know Bora Bergman?
Yeah, sure.
So I used to play with Bora.
Really?
I would go to his place and he would be. He'd be playing, and I see a third hand come out. So he was always playing. So I wound up playing just Arco stuff, like weaving around him. And he said to me, he had called Braxton, not Braxton, Cecil. He goes, he would love it. But a friend of mine was playing with Cecil, so I wouldn't call. I didn't want to create that kind of a mishigas. The life is already full of mishigas. Now, should I have called what other people have called? Yes, but I can only be who I am at that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like I've been on the wings, the Luft wings of Providence, and the music. So I give thanks for that. And look, this is how we met,
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, like Jason gave me your email, because speaking of Jason, how did you end up playing with Jason Cao Huang, actually?
That's interesting, because I had heard him play. I'm trying to think about. I had a funny word for it. It was heebie-jeebies, but CBGB. I used to call it heebie-jeebies. So CBGB used to have a downstairs thing, and I would hear him play down there with I think he was playing with William Hooker at the time, and I met him, but I was too shy to go. I heard him one time, and I love what he was doing with the electronics. And I said, "Man, I love how your violin sounds like a bass. So you're playing some hip shit, right?" So, but that was it. We didn't talk, and I get a phone call one day, and it was Jason. He goes, I got your number from Will Connell. Now, did you remember Will Connell?
No.
Saxophone player. He was Will Connell used to be in L.A. and then he was here. He did a lot of copying from musicians. Yeah. He was a free player, saxophone player, and he knew when I got to town. We ran across. He goes, "You're Ken Filiano." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Wow, man! All my friends in L.A. they talk about you. I know about you, man. Welcome to town." He was the only cat that said "Welcome to town," by the way. So. But I'm used to it because I'm from here, so I know what that was. So evidently he told Jason to give me a call because he said he'd be the right guy for your thing. He said if you're writing music, he can play what you write, and he'll blow it apart and put it back together again. And yeah, I do that. Jason and I, that relationship, that trio relationship.
Yeah, the human rights is amazing,
between Jason and myself as
yeah.
Good thing. And so sometimes we'll be working on this stuff. So how to get a violin and a bass to that trio to sound bigger than it is, and not to sound like what had sounded in the past, well, without letting go of that past. So I'd say, well, what about if I bow that? Okay, let's see if that works. What register? Some composers they don't want to hear that. right? Jason, I mean, we have a working relationship that sometimes I call him up after rehearsal. I say, was I talking too much? He goes, no, it's good. So we have that music. So Will Connell had suggested that if you want a guy to play what you've written and to blow it apart, Ken's the guy. So that's how that came about.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that you're still doing it. It's amazing. Yeah, yeah. What about
Oh
Roswell?
yeah, actually we're gonna.
Sorry. Go ahead, Ken.
Roswell?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Paul
I was
Smoker
just
and
going to say.
Roswell.
Okay. Well, with Jason, just one
Yeah, yeah.
we're going to be recording in 2 weeks, so we have another thing coming up.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Fantastic. Looking
Actually,
forward.
Andrew, he's not in town right now, but Andrew's been working on some rhythmic stuff. So I texted to Andrew. I said, man, before the recording, you and I, let's get together, work on that stuff. Because I said, we can really bobble the ball. Because he's been working on some like 36 or 33 beat cycle that's kind of going around that expands itself. I said, oh, I got to know about this.
Beautiful.
So,
fantastic. Oh, that's gonna be a cool one. Amazing. Yeah. Super.
So now you were going to ask me about.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about some of these amazing guys that I love, like Paul Smoker and Roswell Rudd, like because I know you played with those guys. How was that like?
Oh, that was great. With Paul, it was he was playing. I remember he was playing in trio, and I was living in Park Slope, and Phil Haynes, who was and Jim Yonda were living down the block from me, maybe about half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. So we would do sessions sometimes, and I remember one in I think one of the last pizza joints that are still open to 3 o'clock in the morning. Most of them are closed now at 9 or 10 o'clock, and they call themselves a pizza joint. No, at Smiley Pizza, right? Which was snowing out and like crazy, and I had just come in from a gig, and I just was going there to get some pizza, and all of a sudden I walk in, they're doing right off the snow, and there's Smoker and Phil sitting in the booth, and Smoker has his big leather cowboy hat, and he takes his hat up, goes, Filiano, we'll be playing soon, right? Right, and within maybe about 6 months, he put that group together with Phil and Vinny and Paul. Now, but Paul, I mean, the dedication to not that I learned, but it got cemented in that as you I hate the word old, but you are old, but as you gather the years. Gather years, some people gather habits, right? Which some people gather, anger and bitterness. Some people gather silliness, whatever you gather. Paul, man, kept gathering. The knowledge that he did, the awareness. I won't even call it the knowledge and awareness. Would just kind of like this well that was kind of bubble up. So I was always there with the little cup. Oh yeah, some more. So he was just how he was. I mean, it wasn't what he said, even though he said stuff. It was more that he was. Oh, you can actually generate this thing. So
Beautiful.
And one of the big takeaways I remember, one of the biggest things that he kind of set in my mind has everything to do with music, but nothing to do with music. It wasn't about play like this or do this. It was at one point we're hanging at his house before recording with Damon Smith, as a matter of fact. And I said, I was wrestling with I was teaching some, I had a couple of students, and I didn't really know, how to handle. They didn't have a backlog of improvisational language. They knew how to play their instrument. They wanted to play this, but they were listening to pop music. Okay, so how do I connect? Right? I know my present wife, when she's dealing with singers, are like, and she'll find pop songs that deal with for their voice. I said to Paul, I had a beer, and I said, Paul, like, what do you do with that? And he goes, Ken, I get guys come over here all the time. They want to play. I asked them the question once, what jazz you listen to? And he goes, they say Well, yeah, I don't know. He goes, I say, keep the horn away. You can bring the horn, but when you're not pulling it out, we're going to listen. So, the idea is that you have to be full of not just one style of music. You have to be full of music.
Mm.
And then from there, then again, going back now to Papa Stavro. No technical problems, no technical solutions, musical problems, musical solutions. You have to have a log of musical awareness, and not just stylistically.
Yep.
Right? Of all of the stuff. So Paul knew all the classical repertoire. He knew the straight ahead repertoire. He knew the out stuff. He knew all the extended techniques. Right? So the idea is, as you gather the years, the horizon doesn't get this way for him. The horizon,
Yep.
So that for me, I put that. I'm getting chills talking about that, because for me, and Vinny and I will reflect upon that too, and Phil and I will reflect upon that.
Sure.
That this is, and Herbie, there's Herbie
Yeah.
too. The same. There's this idea of this music of the horizon, have to write, and sometimes it'll kind of and you have to open it up again.
Yeah.
It's a daily practice. So that was for me, and that's what was to playing with him was like that, because again, like you said, when you played your piece, and then Tony the second day you did the same thing, and Tony, if that happened with Paul would. Maybe he might even go and sit down if that was happening, because it's not the same. We're doing the same piece, but it's a different place. So that was my takeaway.
Beautiful.
That's the big thing of all the other stuff. I mean, his dedication also. If we were on the road, and we weren't going to get to the venue in time, he'd go into the back of the van, if we had a van, or the back of and do his warm ups. That was dedicated. That is it.
Yeah.
So so again, I took that as my go-to. As I gather years, I don't want my years to go like this. I want my years to go like that.
Yeah. Beautiful, man. Yeah.
And it's like, if I'm hearing some young cats doing some different shit, I go, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I go, "Yeah, hit me to that." Like, okay, oh, that's a new. Okay, good, thank you. I'm not going to do it the same way you do it, but I'm going to listen now. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Fantastic, man. Yeah. Wow.
So then with Roswell, it was a whole other thing. With Roswell, it was about joy and vibration.
Mm.
That was the whole thing. He never wanted to talk. I would try to talk about the older quartets and stuff like that he played with. He never wanted to talk about that. He wanted to talk about just now. So I could never tap into the historical shit, that I wanted to tap into. He did remember my first bass teacher. He goes, "Stewie, man, I love Stewie." Because my first bass teacher I would play, and so there was the idea of vibration is why I'm bringing this up. I would go to his house and I'd play a note, and I go to the next note. He goes, "No, stay on that other note, man." And so this went on for like, I'm not talking about days. I'm talking about like months. Like a year into it, right? I said, "Stewie, man, I'm playing one note. I've studied all this stuff." And Stewie was Stewie go, "Man, it's hard enough for me to bear one bad, lousy, crappy, shitty note. Why would I want to put myself through the duress of hearing 50 more? Come on, really?" So this idea of paying attention to vibrational experience, Roswell was the same way, but not curmudgeonly like that, but about like, "Oh yeah, okay, let's play this vibrational stuff."
Mm.
And it was meaningful to me because I have a I guess should I be saying this in public? Yeah, fuck it, I can. Yeah, I have a hearing disorder with my ears, right? And so this ear, the left ear, because of radiation, the audio nerve is dying. Actually, it's almost dead. I hear sound, but it's on a low end. But I can't understand words unless I have hearing aids in.
Oh, wow.
But when I play, I was playing in an opera, how I discovered this was I was in an opera, and all the low horns were in the pit, were behind to my left, and we'd be playing these long tones, and I was not in tune, and I didn't know what was going on, right? And I got the stink eye, and I deserved it, and I did, but I didn't know what was going on. I said, I've never, wound up happening. that this ear was losing pitch. It was like a half step lower than pitch,
Wow, man.
right? So this is all related to Roswell because this was happening just as I was playing with Roswell, and I remember making it. My wife and current wife and my mother-in-law were in California. I was having cocktail hour with them, and I made a martini, and we were talking, and then I made a second martini. Came to sit down, and the water, I hit the table, and the martini, I saw the vibration, and it was like in a snap. I said, body, fluid, vibration, music, vibration, and I put a note. I put a note down while I'm talking to my mother. Vibration, explore, music. So I started to say how if I'm good, I have to turn my body into an ear in order to play, or I can't match pitch with my surface. So then I found a piano tuner. I'd heard about a piano tuner who tuned without machines, tuned to tuning with tuning forks and counting beats, and that was the only way he tuned. So I called him up, and I wanted a lesson from or two on how to understand this by vibrational experience. And so he poo-pooed me, right? I said, okay. He basically told me I was full of shit. And I in a very nice way, because the pianist who told me, right, you know. So I said, okay. So following week, I had a concert with Denver Maroney and Michael, clarinet player. I'm drawing a blank on his. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Hold it a second. I can find it. We had a concert at this little spot and Denver and myself and Michael. I'm going to pull up his name because I want his blah 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 blah. 1 second, because my Michael Lytle. Do you know Michael Lytle?
No.
Yeah. So great bass clarinet player. Yeah. So we were doing this concert, and it was all improvised music, and and Devin was doing his thing, and and so we finished. We had a very nice set, and I'm packing up my bass, and I get a tap on my shoulder, and he goes, the guy goes, you won't. I don't think you remember me, but we talked on the phone last week. I said, the piano tuner. He goes, yeah, I see you're not full of shit, and he says, I see you're not full of shit. So let's make a time to get together. So what this does, the idea of counting beats and vibrations. Now when I'm playing, I really feel I'm making a point to feel that, and so I'm seeing it as not flat or sharp, but as clear or cloudy.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
This is how I'm. So when I start telling Roswell, I start playing with Roswell, and I start talking to Roswell about that, he goes, oh, Kenny, vibration, man. So we've got to, and Connie Crothers, who I played with, we were also about the vibration stuff, because when we would play with Connie, her and I were playing with duets or in her group, again, she would play these cluster chords, and really the only way to navigate her stuff, you could play the surface. If we're playing a tune, you can play the surface of what the scale or the chord is, but no, with her, it's like, you get inside of that, and then you blows up in that vibration, and you know what it is, but and it has some relationship, and all that sparkly. So with Roswell, man, he really. But I was like saying, well, I don't know how to do this, to explore this mathematically, because I don't think there's a math. He goes, no, it's vibration, baby. You're a vibration. Honor that. So
Beautiful.
So. Oh yeah, and so that was a beautiful amalgamation. Faye and Lafayette and myself, doing that embrace was. It was always a great thing. Because we would go play, and also when we finished, we would rehearse was just playing a tune over and over again, taking the section, playing it over, playing having a little break, probably you talking, but you're still vibrating, then going over. So wherever you are with Roswell, you're vibrating, right? So that was the takeaway on that stuff,
What cats, man. Wow.
He never really talked about chords. He was just, oh yeah, you play this, you're playing this. So he was really thinking sonicness. So I said, oh yeah, I got to get to that. Maybe before I die, maybe I'll get to that.
Yeah, that's why his music sounded different. I mean, it sounds different. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and the fact that he was, again, like what we talked about earlier, the idea of allowing someone to be who they are. He played with different people. He allowed everybody to be who they were. He wasn't trying to say, well, I've done this and that this you need to do this and be no.
Yeah.
And I think that's an if I may be so bold to say that's an old school aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember in Syracuse once when I was playing in Syracuse. I spent let's see, I was in the university, but also I was doing gigs. And once I quit trumpet, I was doing gigs down, pretty much in the black community, the black community. It was like me and two other cats, white cats that were playing. But it was like this whole black community where like there was a scene going on then, right? I remember one time working with, I was working guitar trio, and I had been studying Paul, Paul Chambers a lot,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, so I had come in first set we were doing, and it's like I'm feeling Paul there. I'm just like, oh, Paul, I'm happy as a dog, man, rolling over some dead animal stuff, right? And you know how dogs get when they roll over a dead animal and they get that smell on them of something else, then they're so happy.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling happy. So Marcus, he was kind of one of my teachers. I say a teacher because if we're learning a tune, he go, no, I don't give you changes. You play when I play. You follow. You hear it, and it was really good for the ear. So Marcus goes at the end. He puts his instrument down. And goes, boy, get your drink. I said, oh, okay. Went for a drink. He bought me a drink. So so like he has these dark shades on. The club is like dark, with just it was like the Aquarius Lounge, and it's like black with like some star-studded stuff. Right. So he looks at me with his shades. He goes, "What's your name, boy?" I go, "Marcus. You know who I am." He goes, "I ain't fucking around, man. What's your name?" I said, "Ken." So he takes a sip. Ken who? I go, Marcus. He goes, I ain't fucking around. I said, okay. Ken Filiano. He goes, and he takes his glasses, puts them down. He goes, that's who I thought I hired. Bring him back next set. Puts his glasses on, drinks his drink, and splits. And we talked about that later. And that was the thing. He wanted my sound. Whatever studying I did, because we all study other people. But study you have to, when you're playing this music, because this music is not about like pop music, classical music. It's not about what your sound is. It's about what the sound of that particular entity that has its own thing. But in this music, especially at this time in that area, that sound, that's who you are. That's who you are, that sound, and wherever you is at that moment. And that's where the story comes from. It's not about the technique. It's not about, what you could do with this. It's not about, it's about what is your story. So I think that's something that we've kind of lost track of a little bit, that I think hopefully will come back. And Roswell and Paul too was the same thing. Paul, the idea of your sound, it wasn't, if he wanted a different sound, he would get a different player. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it. So the idea of cultivating your own sound.
Yeah.
That's
important.
Like and if I may turn it around a little bit, right? Having after you and I didn't know your work, so I listened to your work, and I really dug the fact. I'm not saying this because we're interviewing. I'm not saying this. I'm saying this real, one human being to another. I can hear your palette of where the palette from Ralph Towner, right, to what's the guitarist, the British guitar player,
Derek Bailey.
Derek Bailey.
Yeah.
I can hear this whole thread. But when I'm listening, I hear you. The more I hear, I say, I'm hearing you. So like you're paying attention to that. And I'm saying this is something that we like, I'm getting chills. I'm getting some goosebumps thinking about it. That this is where the saliency, that's the gift of this particular music is. It's not only in the style, but it's in the sound. It's in your, like Tony has Tony's sound. Lovano has Lovano sound, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You have your sound.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
2 weeks ago I did a concert. Right, we were doing something, and Brittany Anjou, I've just met her. She was playing Carl Berger's Vibes, right,
Mm.
on this concert. We all played with Carl. You know, this group we played. You know, Carl had always played those vibes. Brittany brought a whole. I'm getting even more chills now. Brittany brought a whole thing to it that it was Carl's vibes, right, with Carl's vibes on it. But Brittany brought her own thing, which meant, you know, I tipped my hat like a million. If I had a million hats, I'd keep tipping because that was the thing.
Yeah.
This is what we need to really cultivate. What is your story? You know,
Yeah.
not just you personally, but it's me, but us collectively.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
that's true. That's a problem with many young students that nowadays, that they all want to sound like someone. They do sound, so many of them who finish universities, you know, they don't. It takes time, obviously, but still, it's. I think it's quite a problem. You know, everyone sounds like, I don't know. I will not go into names, but like, you know, guitarists sound like this one particular guy, or bass players, or saxophone players, and it's like, okay, but uh, what's you? You know, like, be you.
No, this is exactly true. And you know, some of that I think may come from, you know, may come from tactile learning more than sonic learning. And if you're transcribing somebody's solo, you're transcribing their style
Yeah.
rather than if you're singing it, you're singing their phraseology. But then for you to play it, you have to play your. So rather than writing it down, you have to play it, right?
Yeah.
Or like when I was in playing in orchestras in the '70s, right? I would be in orchestras. If I was playing with my teacher, either on trumpet or on, they would never say you're right or wrong. They would say your tendencies, what your tendency
Mm.
is, which is a better lesson because it's about you. Like I remember playing Beethoven Six, man, with my bass teacher, and you know, and he gets up after one thing and he goes, "I see you're like your F sharp and your G's flat." Okay, then, and walks away. Right? He didn't say I was flat or sharp. He was pointing me to my tendency, which then to this day I still have a tendency to play my F sharp and my G's flat. So so I'm always becoming aware of that thing, and I'm always chuckling as I'm making because that's whatever it is that I hear, I'm hearing that, and so that was a great lesson of allowing myself to be careful, meaning
Mm.
take full of care.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we're not playing with our teachers enough for them to do that,
Yeah.
you know.
Also, yeah. Interesting. Yep.
So, but you know,
Interesting.
that's what conversation is about. We're here to talk about it, to talk about this idea and generate it back into the universe. Say, oh, that's the gift of this music.
Yeah.
The gift of this music is there's 25 people, 25 stories.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's 26 people, there's 26 stories.
Yeah.
That's of course if they were not dealing with multiple personalities. You know, so and
No.
I say that in a humorous good way.
No. Sure. No, but it's true. It's true, man. Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. I love that about this music. Yeah. The sound and
Oh yeah,
composing style and the playing improv style, thinking. You know. Yeah. It's like I remember years ago, Bill Frisell. You know, I love Frisell. He played like a normal G chord on guitar, like a G chord, and it sounded like it was like a universe. It was incredible. I don't know what it was. And then I came home, like that's 25 years ago. And I came home like, yeah, it's a G chord. And I played it. And I was like, it's a G chord. And while he played it, it was like the same chord, you know, the same everything. But it's, yeah, something about it that's hard to describe, you know. So
it's how he's hearing
yeah,
it's how he's hearing it. So like what he's brought into that one note, whatever that is. So now your task. I mean, now you specifically at that point would be how do I hear this? How do I hear that chord?
yeah,
How do I hear it? And again, I speak now not just with this because how you hear this is only surface, but how you hear it with that,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
You know that then you're hearing a whole other thing.
sure,
You know,
yeah, interesting.
that's like sometimes I'll do practicing if I wanted to open my ears to practice. I'd say I'll take a scale, right? Whatever scale, I'll put, instead of putting the drone like let's say it's G, I'm putting a G. I'll put a D flat and an A flat drone together, and I put a G inside that, right? By the time I'm finished figuring out how that G works again, or that all those G notes, right? Even the pentatonic works inside of that, tritone perfect fifth, and by the time I'm finished, you get that away, and man, you hear it in a whole other thing. I bet you that's what Frizzell was doing. It's like in some way gathering that kind of thing.
Probably, yeah.
And the other night, I stumbled upon something. Something I do a YouTube thing where I just like let the stuff flow through, and I got this thing where this cellist was saying, "Oh, the old school method is," and he starts to play a G scale on top of an A flat. I'm really piqued. I'm kind of like really intrigued that I'm doing that. I want to hear what this old school method of. So of course the cosmos jumps in, and my finger hits delete, right? Not pause. And I can't find that thing again. So I got a little tip that there's something going on. There's something going on in the musical universe. But now here's a classical cat talking the same way about really tuning in to something. And it was some old school shit, I can't find. If ever I find it, I'll send it to you.
Oh, please, man. Yeah. It's good to hear this stuff always.
So that's it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, Ken, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned mixing your solo album and finishing, and the quartet, other stuff. Like, what's still in the schedule for you for this year, and coming to Europe soon, or what's the plans for the upcoming months?
It's funny. I just had 2 tours canceled. The first one, and they were going to be like, one was in the middle of July. It was going to be in Switzerland with this orchestra. Daniel Schneider, a saxophonist and composer, Swiss guy, lives in New York.
Yeah.
So we did this project with him last year in Switzerland, and Michael Wimberly was on drums, and basically it's a rhythm section. I'm playing both the classical parts when it's there, and then he'll write the rhythmic stuff. So moving back and forth. So the idea is having himself, myself, Michael Wimberly, and the principal violinist who also lives over there. So we're going back and forth in this music. So we're gonna do that again, but that got canceled for, as Daniel said, well, we're a bunch of old white guys. They don't want us. And they said if I was a woman that they would do that. Now, so something happened. So that's not on. And then I was supposed to go from there to Villach to do this Villach festival with, Lou Grassi and Kenny Wessel and a slew of other cats that were going to be on there, right?
Oh, and it's
doing
not
something
happening.
that was not happening. They couldn't get the funding for it. So that's.
Oh man! Thomas was supposed to be there also, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we were supposed
Thomas
to
Hebber
meet
was
in August. Oh shit, that's a shame. I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yes, so I was just funny you should ask that, because I was just talking with my wife last night over dinner. I said, I think I should just just head over to Europe and just do some playing, like just even if it's not happening, just to.
We have a guest room, man. Come on. We have a guest.
Well,
we have
watch out now. Watch out.
I'm serious.
Will talk.
You're invited.
I'm serious too.
Would love to
because
play.
there's other friends that now as the touring had stopped, they're a friend. Now I consider you my friend. They were friends that I haven't been able to see because the touring stopped. So I used to be able to do that and extend it. Well, no, the idea is once I finish the solo thing and get all those. I'm terrible at business, self promotion. I'm in negative numbers. My wife is really great about knowing how to do that. So, but I will consider that. Good.
Yeah, I'll send you email and remind you again. So, but yeah.
Cool.
Beautiful. Cool, man.
Thomas Hebber. Now, there's an interesting. Yep.
Sorry. You play a lot with Thomas, by the way.
No, I was just saying Thomas is.
Yeah.
Not a lot. We have times when we play together and a
Okay.
lot, and then we're like over here. But
Okay.
the interesting thing is, we first met in Ham in um, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the German city. It's not Hamburg. It's where he's from. Not Berlin.
Hanover. No. Cologne. Cologne. No.
No. It's a bigger city. It has a big cathedral.
Cologne. He's from Cologne.
I don't.
Thomas. No. Shit.
Cologne. Yes.
Cologne. Yeah. Yeah.
1983. I went there with Vinny, and myself and Wayne Pete went there to do, and trombonist Mike Lakovich. So we went there, and Alex Klein. We went there to play some Vinny's music with a large ensemble. So I met Thomas there, and then hadn't seen him again until he moved back here, and somehow we were tossed together, and I go, oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, so we've been kind of playing together. It was interesting to see. It's interesting to see how somebody you meet, like 30 years ago, how they're also growing. That's the other thing about this this world we live in, man. To see those who said, this is my territory, and I'm just going to stay here. I don't need to grow. I'm just going to cultivate that. And there are other cats who are just like continuously expanding. So it's a beautiful life lesson, man.
It is, yeah. It's a privilege, I always say, to be able to explore this music that we do, and to play it, and yeah,
total privilege.
It's a real privilege, yeah. But cool.
Yep.
Ken, I'll slowly let you go. So it's getting late here.
I could talk all day, but have we